You don't get to die with two properties, Dad. That's not fair. My name is Emmett Sinclair, I'm 55 years old, and I've lived in the same red brick house in Asheville, North Carolina for most of my life. I built this place with my wife before we had our son, before the illness, before the quiet years. It's a wide, creaky old house with stubborn windows, a wood-burning stove, and a porch swing that still groans under my weight. It's not perfect, but it's mine. And as of last Thursday, apparently, it's also a wasted asset. That's what my son called it. A wasted asset. His name is Cyrus, 32 years old, MBA, big plans, fast car. He lives with his wife, Marisol, in a sleek new condo in Charlotte with glass walls and a smart fridge that texts you when the milk is low. They both work in real estate investment, buying homes from aging owners and flipping them to make passive returns. Translation: they're polite until they smell weakness. Then they circle. Last week, they drove up to see me. To check in, Cyrus said. They brought croissants I didn't ask for and sat stiffly on the couch like they were there for a performance review. Then he dropped the line. You don't get to die with two properties, Dad. That's not fair. I stared at him, blinking. Come again. He smiled, like he was explaining compound interest to a kindergartner. You're sitting on $200,000 in equity and living off pension. That doesn't make sense. Marisol leaned forward, the supportive one. What Cyrus means is, it's time to start thinking smart. We found a senior-friendly unit for you in South Park. Elevator, pool, gym, gated. You'd be closer to us. And we already talked to a property attorney. We could even handle the listing for this house ourselves. You wouldn't have to lift a finger. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. They mistook that silence for consent. Cyrus pulled out a folder. Neat, branded, thick as a phone book. This is the preliminary agreement. It lets us open a line of credit on the house and begin renovations for resale. It's basic stuff. You'd retain partial title and be listed as a passive co-owner. But legally, it gives us room to move. Clean, fast, efficient. I looked down at the folder. You ever feel like your own child is reading off a script? I closed the folder without a word. I'll think about it. Marisol smiled brightly, too brightly. Take your time, of course. But Cyrus? He just nodded like he'd already won. That night I couldn't sleep. I stood barefoot in the kitchen at 2 a.m., sipping cold water, listening to the wind. The floor creaked under me. The same floor I laid down with my own hands in 1992. The same walls I patched when Jasper fell off his scooter inside the house. The attic? Still had my wife's old sketchbooks in a cedar box. Her laugh still lived in the hallways. And now? My son wanted to liquidate it all. Because it didn't make sense. The next morning, I drove into town and walked into a small office above a bakery on Walnut Street. Margaret Owens, estate attorney. Sharp as a scalpel. Used to work for the city. She did the original property deed for our house 26 years ago. She looked up from her desk and smiled. Emmett, it's been a while. I sat down. I think my son's trying to steal my house. She didn't blink. Instead, she reached for a legal pad and said, Start from the beginning. I told her everything. Cyrus's tone, the partial title transfer, the LLC, the offer to move me into some sterile box in Charlotte. Margaret nodded slowly. Let me guess. They want you to sign a revocable transfer agreement under the pretense of estate planning. Something like that. And once it's in their LLC, they sell it. You get evicted under renovation conditions. It happens more than you think. I swallowed hard. She opened a drawer and pulled out a blank trust form. We're going to do 3 things, she said. 1. File a restriction alert on the property. Any title change triggers a notification to me. 2. Transfer ownership into an irrevocable trust. You keep full rights of residence. Your son? He gets nothing unless you say so. And 3. She leaned forward. We're going to quietly audit that LLC he mentioned. By Friday we'd found it. Maple Property Holdings, LLC, registered in Marisol's maiden name, listed just 10 days ago. Mailing address? A virtual mailbox inside a strip mall in Charlotte. They weren't planning to move me. They were planning to sell this house out from under me. Saturday, I invited Cyrus and Marisol back for brunch. I made scrambled eggs, set the table, even brought out the jam I only use when I'm pretending to be hospitable. They arrived smiling, too confident. As we sat down, I asked, "Can I show you something?" I handed them an envelope. Inside, a notarized copy of the trust, a letter from Margaret, and a transcript of Marisol's phone call last week, recorded from my hallway. "He's old. We'll take care of it before he even knows what's happening." Their faces changed in sync, Cyrus pale, Marisol frozen. "You recorded us?" she asked, voice thin. I nodded. "I've lived in this house longer than you've been alive. You think I don't know how to hide a recorder?" Cyrus pushed his plate away. "This is insane." I stood up slowly. "No. What would have been insane was trusting you. You think this is over because you threw a few papers in my face?" They left that brunch like strangers. No goodbye. No fake hug. No thanks for breakfast. Just silence, a stiff walk to the car, and a slammed door that echoed through the house like a closing vault. I stood in the doorway and watched them drive away. And I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The next week, it started small. My mailbox jammed with unfamiliar envelope. Municipal review notice. Pending assessment confirmation. Tax status discrepancy. At first I thought it was junk, until Margaret looked them over. "These aren't spam," she said. "They're paper traps. It looks like someone filed a complaint with the tax office about unpaid home maintenance and misreported occupancy status. That can trigger forced valuation. In English, Emmett, your son is trying to prove you're mentally unfit to manage your estate." I sat back in her office chair, the old leather creaking beneath me. "Cyrus wouldn't do that." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" I didn't answer. Because I wasn't. 2 days later, I got the phone call. Adult Protective Services. An anonymous report had been filed suggesting I might be neglecting property upkeep and putting myself at risk. A man named Harold came by. Polite, clipboard in hand, government smile. "Just a routine wellness check, Mr. Sinclair. Do you live alone?" "Yes." "Do you manage your own medication?" "I don't take any." He glanced around. "Do you have any children nearby?" I paused. "I have a son." Harold nodded slowly, jotting something down. "And when was the last time you saw him?" I almost laughed. "The last time I saw him was the last time I'll ever trust him." After Harold left, I called Margaret. "They're escalating," I told her. "He's trying to paint me as incompetent." She sighed. "Then we escalate too." 3 days later, Cyrus called me. First time in weeks. Voice smooth, practiced. "Hey Dad. Just checking in." I said nothing. "I've been thinking. Maybe things got too tense. Maybe I came on too strong. We're family. We should talk things out." He paused. "Maybe over dinner? We can swing by Sunday night. Just us three. No paperwork. No pressure." It was bait. I took it anyway. Sunday night, I made chili. It was my wife's recipe. The only thing Cyrus ever truly liked that I cooked. He showed up with Marisol. Smiles. Wine. Apologies. They sat on the couch, made small talk, asked about Jasper. At one point, Marisol even started tearing up. "We just got scared, Emmett. You're alone in this big house." We panicked. I nodded, listened. They were good. Almost good enough. Until Cyrus reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folder. "Look," he said gently. "No pressure. Just something to look at. A power of attorney. It gives me limited rights to act on your behalf for property matters. Nothing permanent. Just while you sort things out." I didn't touch it. I didn't even blink. Instead, I stood up, walked to the side cabinet, and pulled out a thin, sealed envelope. I handed it to Cyrus. "What's this?" "A copy of your bank transaction from 3 weeks ago. The one where you paid a property investigator to assess the house behind my back." Marisol's face went white. Cyrus didn't say a word. Then I added, "And in case you're wondering, I also contacted APS. Told them about the false complaint. They're flagging your name." The room went dead silent. Cyrus stood slowly, folder still in hand. "You think this is over," he said, voice low, "because you threw a few papers in my face?" "No," I said. "It's over because I finally see who you are." They left without taking the chili. That night, I sat alone on the porch. The air was thick, southern August heat pressing down like wet wool. I looked up at the roofline, still missing that one damn gutter I'd meant to fix, but somehow, it didn't matter anymore. This house wasn't a burden. It wasn't a wasted asset. It was mine. And it was safe. "He told me you're confused, Grandpa. That you don't know what you're doing anymore." It was Jasper who called me. I was out back trimming the dogwoods when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. Area code 704. "Charlotte." I answered. "Grandpa." His voice was small, unsure. "Jasper? What's going on, buddy?" He hesitated, then quietly said, "Dad says you're selling the house." I stopped cold. The shears in my hand felt suddenly too heavy. "No, I'm not," I said gently. "Why would he say that?" "He said you signed some papers. That you're moving. And that you're not thinking clearly anymore." My mouth went dry. "He said what?" "That you forget things. That you gave the house away by mistake and now you're trying to undo it, but the lawyers are fighting." Every part of my chest tightened. I sat down on the edge of the garden bed and stared at the dirt. Jasper was 12. Smart, sensitive, always asking how things worked. And now his father was using him like a pawn. I took a breath. Slow. Controlled. "Listen to me, Jasper," I said. "I need you to do something for me. I need you to come visit next weekend. Just you. We'll cook, maybe fix the porch swing. Just you and me. Can you do that?" "Okay. Don't tell your dad. Just say you want to come see the garden. He'll let you. He trusts you." Silence. "Jasper? I don't think he does trust me. Not since I said you seem fine." I closed my eyes. My grandson was already learning the cost of loyalty. The next Saturday, Jasper showed up with a backpack and a bag of Oreos. He hugged me tighter than usual. And I held on longer than I meant to. We grilled hot dogs on the deck. He told me about school. His science teacher. A girl named Erin who beat him in chess and made him mad enough to learn a better opening. Later that night, I pulled out an old shoebox from the closet. Inside was a folded map of Asheville, some Polaroids of the house under construction, and a picture of my wife holding baby Jasper the week he was born. He looked at it quietly, then said, "She used to read to me when I was little. She smelled like cinnamon." I nodded. That was her perfume. She wore it every day. Said it made her feel grounded. He smiled. "You kinda smell like wood glue and old coffee." "Thanks." We both laughed. Then he looked at me again. Eyes sharp, serious. "Are you okay, Grandpa?" I met his gaze. "I'm better than I've been in a long time." He nodded. "So why is Dad saying you're losing it?" "Because he's scared of what happens when I'm not." The next morning, I gave Jasper something I never thought I would. A sealed envelope. Inside, a letter to him. Personal. Clear. And a second copy of the trust document, naming him as beneficiary. He held it like it might break. "If anything ever happens to me," I said, "you give this to Margaret Owens. No one else." His voice cracked. "What's going to happen to you?" "Nothing," I said. "Not if I can help it. But just in case, this house is yours. You get to decide what it becomes. Not your dad. Not anyone else." Jasper nodded, tears building behind his eyes. He didn't say anything for a long time. Just sat there on the porch swing, holding that envelope like a sacred thing. When Cyrus came to pick him up that afternoon, he didn't get out of the car. Just honked twice and waited. Jasper stood at the edge of the driveway, backpack on, looking over his shoulder. "I'll be back soon," he said. "I know. Promise you won't let them sell it." "I promise." He got in the car. It pulled away, and I stood there until the taillights disappeared. That night I checked my email. Margaret had sent me a notice. Cyrus had filed a formal petition with the county clerk, requesting temporary financial conservatorship over my assets, based on medical concern and cognitive instability. Attached to it? A notarized affidavit from Marisol, claiming I'd been forgetting names, dates, and confusing financial documents. There was one problem. The dates she referenced were all from conversations I'd recorded, with her voice, clear as day, saying, "We'll flip it fast. He won't even know it's gone." I stared at the monitor, and I smiled, not because it was funny, but because they'd just made their last mistake. "You wanted control, Cyrus? You got exactly what that costs." The hearing was set for Tuesday morning. Small county courtroom. No cameras, just wood paneling, a skeptical judge, and two lawyers who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Cyrus arrived in a fitted navy suit, fresh haircut, and that same smug look I remembered from his teenage years, the one he wore when he thought he was smarter than the teacher. Marisol walked behind him like a campaign manager, all sharp lines and silence. My lawyer, Margaret, sat beside me with her hands folded calmly on the table. She'd been waiting for this day since that first folder hit my kitchen table. The judge glanced over the papers. Petition for financial conservatorship based on diminished capacity. "Mr. Sinclair, do you understand what your son is asking?" "I do, Your Honor." "Do you contest this petition?" "I do." "And on what grounds?" I nodded to Margaret, who stood up like she'd been waiting her entire career for this. "Your Honor," she began, "this petition is based on false claims, unverified observations, and, most importantly, fraudulent testimony. The affidavit provided by Ms. Marisol Blake includes 3 direct lies, each of which we can disprove with recorded audio evidence. May I approach the bench?" The judge waved her forward. She handed over a small folder and a USB drive. Contained on this drive are 2 conversations between Ms. Blake and my client, recorded within the home. In them, she clearly states, quote, "He won't even know it's gone," referring to the house, "and we'll flip it fast, he doesn't read the paperwork anyway." The judge raised an eyebrow, then turned to Cyrus. "Mr. Sinclair, would you like to revise your petition?" Cyrus didn't speak. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. Marisol shifted uncomfortably. The judge continued. "Furthermore, the court notes that the respondent, Mr. Emmett Sinclair, has submitted verified medical evaluations confirming full cognitive functionality and mental clarity. This includes documentation from 2 licensed professionals." He looked back at me. "Mr. Sinclair, are you aware of the trust you filed 2 months ago?" "I am. I signed it. I helped draft it." "And do you understand that the property is no longer in your estate, but instead protected under an irrevocable structure for your grandson, Jasper Sinclair?" "I understand perfectly." The judge leaned back. "Then this petition is denied. The court finds no evidence of diminished capacity and sees sufficient grounds to flag the original affidavit for potential intent to defraud. This hearing is concluded." He banged the gavel. Cyrus didn't move. I stood slowly, smoothed my jacket, and walked past him on the way out. As I passed, I said, just loud enough, "You wanted control, Cyrus? You got exactly what that costs." He didn't look up. 2 days later, I received a call from Jasper. He sounded winded, like he'd been running. "Dad's freaking out," he said. "Yelling. He said the court embarrassed him. Said you made him look like a criminal." "I didn't have to," I said quietly. "He did that all by himself." A week after the hearing, I received an email from a local reporter with the Asheville Chronicle. They'd gotten wind of the hearing and were running a piece on elder exploitation and estate manipulation. Apparently Cyrus had been involved in 2 other property transfers involving elderly homeowners, now under review. The story ran under the headline, "Real Estate Heir Accused of Coercion, Fraud in Family Trust Dispute." Photo of Cyrus. Grim, caught mid-step. Quote from a legal ethics professor at Duke. Cases like this are why we encourage family members to establish clear legal protections early. Manipulation under the guise of care is becoming disturbingly common. Marisol's Instagram account disappeared a day later. Cyrus's LinkedIn? Deleted. And a week after that, their LLC was listed as inactive with the state. Jasper came to visit again the next weekend. We grilled out back. Chicken thighs. Fresh corn. He sat on the porch swing and said, "They're moving." "Where to?" "Mom wants to go to Raleigh. Dad's talking about Atlanta. He says no one in Asheville will do business with him anymore." I said nothing. Jasper looked up at me. "You're still angry, huh?" "No," I said. "I'm tired. But not angry." He nodded, then asked, "Did you mean it? What you said, that the house is mine?" I stood, walked into the house, and came back with a copy of the trust. Handed it to him. He opened it slowly. "Read his name." His eyes widened. "Grandpa, this is real?" "It's always been real. You just had to grow into it." He held the papers in his lap for a long time. Then whispered, "I won't let anyone touch it. I promise." That night, after he went to sleep, I walked through the house, barefoot, quiet. Past the photos, the sketchbook shelf, the old stool my wife used to sit on while shelling peas. And I finally let myself exhale, not because it was over, but because it couldn't be undone. He wanted to erase me. Instead, he made me unforgettable. 2 years have passed since that hearing. Cyrus never called me again. Marisol sent a 1-line email that said, "You ruined everything." I never replied. They moved to Atlanta. Tried to start over under a new company name. But the internet never forgets. That article from the Asheville Chronicle still ranks high when you search his name. Elder fraud. Estate manipulation. Attempted conservatorship overturned. He's radioactive now. No investors, no clients, no trust. I didn't destroy him. He built the fire. I just let him stand in it. Jasper turned 14 last month. He's taller than me now. Voice changing. Still hates math. Still loves chess. He visits every weekend, sometimes stays the whole week in summer. We rebuilt the attic together last fall. Insulated it, cleaned out the old storage, made it into a little reading loft. I let him design it. He painted the beams deep blue and strung up warm lights around the ceiling like stars. He calls it the observatory. Sometimes I catch him up there, lying on his back with headphones in, just thinking. Not scrolling. Not posting. Just being still. He told me last week that he wants to study architecture. He said, "I want to build things that last." I didn't cry. Not in front of him. Asheville's changed too. More tourists. New coffee shop. The bakery under Margaret's office added a rooftop bar and some nonsense called espresso foam flights. But the streets still breathe the same way. The dogwoods I planted in the yard are blooming again. Every morning, I sit on the porch with a mug of black coffee and look at them. Some mornings I think about Cyrus, about how he'll spend the rest of his life explaining what he did, or pretending it didn't happen. Either way, it's a life built on loss. But I don't hate him anymore. Pity is colder than rage, and longer lasting. I rewrote my will this year. The house is already locked in the trust. But now I've added something else. A letter. For Jasper. Sealed, to be opened on his 25th birthday. In it, I wrote one sentence. You protect what matters, even if that means protecting it from family. Last weekend, Jasper walked into the kitchen holding a wooden box. "Built this at school," he said. "It's for you." I opened the lid. Inside was a small brass plaque, screwed to the underside. It said, "Property of E. Sinclair, not for sale." I laughed for the first time in days. You see, people think revenge is loud, that it's fire and fists and courtroom shouting. But sometimes it's just a locked door, a clean title, a name on a plaque that no one can remove. Sometimes the best revenge is staying right where you are, while they lose everything trying to move you.